Hey guys, I'm Dave.
And I'm Len.
And welcome to Wargame Chat. Today we're going to talk about unusual generals and leaders in warfare. Who's your first one?
Okay, James Wilkerson, but an American general in the early Republic of the United States. He was also known among the Spanish as Agent 13. Yes, he was spying for Spain at the same time that he was a general in the United States Army. In fact, one of his legacies was that he never won a battle or lost a court-martial. And what I want to emphasize is he made positive contributions to American history. First of all, in the Northwest frontier, he guarded the forts along the Ohio while Anthony Wayne was training the troops, forming the army and training the troops. He often had to deal with shortages of supplies, desertions, and all sorts of problems, but he kept the forts together so that when Wayne showed up with his army, Wayne could defeat the Indians. Another contribution was he was the first governor of the Louisiana Purchase. And through his diplomatic skills, he was able to resolve many conflicts between the natives and the people there already and the American government. The third contribution was that he put down Aaron Burr's revolt. Of course, one of the advantages he had was he was Aaron Burr's second in command before so he knew what was going on and where to go. He showed that the Republic does not have to be afraid of a standing army, because with a standing army you could put down these revolts and mutinies. And the fourth one is that during the War of 1812, he marched into present states of Alabama and Mississippi, and these were the only territory that was added to the American country after the war. But he got pissed. His spying activities were getting noticed, even though he was the most charming fellow. He decided to leave the country while he was ahead of everything else. And after we won the Spanish-American War in 1898, we found out in the archives in Havana his correspondence with his Spanish agent, so there's no doubt that he was a spy for Spain.
So what wars was he in besides the War of 1812?
1812, the Northwest Frontier War, and also the American Revolution.
Surprised with those wars, it's kind of surprising that he was a Spanish agent. You figure if he was an agent, he'd be maybe an agent of France or England or something. You know what I mean?
The reason why he became a Spanish agent was that after the American Revolution, there was a period for about 10, 12 years, we had the Articles of Confederacy running the government. And he was living in Kentucky, speculating on land. And the problem with the Articles of Confederacy is that no one was quite sure if the Indians attacked whether the government would come to your rescue. So they were putting out feelers to other Europeans. And he was talking to the Spanish. At the time, Spain controlled New Orleans, which is the biggest market for Western commerce. So he reached out to him, and part of the deal was that he was going to persuade the Kentucky settlers to want to join the Spanish Empire. But what happened was we had the Constitution Convention and the Constitution, so everybody was feeling better about being American.
Interesting. All right, who's your next strange and unusual
leader? Well, that's
leader?
the only one I could think of.
Oh, okay.
I figured we'd just do one each.
Oh, okay. Who would I do then? I'd have to say most of the ancient leaders that are popular were strange and unusual in one way or the other, like Alexander the Great. He did some strange stuff, especially the battle which he won without fighting, the one where he walked into basically an ambush and he had enemy troops on hills all around him and stuff, and basically no matter what he did, he was going to get hit in the flank or the rear and probably wiped out. So what he did is he just had his troops start doing drills, and the Macedonians were better drilled than any other troops on the planet at the time, or maybe even in history. And when the enemy saw them drill, they just couldn't believe how good these guys were, and they just fled the battlefield. And then you got Julius Caesar, who, before he was a military leader, he was captured by pirates, and when they set the ransom for him, he was so insulted at how low the ransom was that he insisted that they make the ransom higher. And who else do we got here? And then you got Hannibal. What was he was a great general, but what was unusual about him is he could win basically any battle, but he didn't seem to know how to win an entire war. Yeah, it's so strange that he didn't win the Second Punic War with all those great battles that he won. But yeah, for some reason he just didn't know how to win a war. He just knew how to win battles. But yeah, that's all I got.
One thing I should add, Joan of Arc is so unusual. I mean,
I've actually never read about her. I probably should, because people talk about her quite often, and I feel like I should have more knowledge on her when I don't.
Well, one thing is that with Joan of Arc, your country's about to fall apart, and who can save it? A 17-year-old teenage girl who hears voices in her head. And the thing was, she was respected by these battle-hardened leaders who would actually listen to what she would say. And in fact, I think there was a story that she was actually telling the artillerists how to point their guns and what to do. There's a lot of, don't ask me where she learned this, because hardly anybody knew how to do this. So she could ride a horse. She seemed to have this leadership charisma.
Interesting. You got any games about her? Or?
I think there's a few Middle Ages one about the 100 Years' War. And one thing I always, I think with Charles IX was the king, was the guy she helped get crowned King of France. And actually he's a very Machiavellian character. Because of him, he talked Burgundy, which was a separate country, from that, for fighting with France instead of England, which changed the balance of power. And actually, under his reign, France went from a losing country to start on the road to victory. And I thought it was always said, instead of being respected as this great leader, all everybody remembers is that one year the teenage girl ran his armies. In fact, I think there's only one time I saw. We usually follow the George Bernard Shaw version. He wrote a play about Joan of Arc, where the King of France is this decadent, effete snob. I always liked this one movie. They had Lily Sobieski as Joan of Arc, and they had the actor played Dougie. I forget his name. Anyway, he plays him as a more he understood the character. In fact, one of the things was at the beginning, his courtiers explained to him, "This is Joan of Arc, blah blah blah," and she goes, "The maid of Lorraine Gambit? I thought we did this one before." And they did a few very Machiavellian things. So
interesting. Anything else?
Nah.
All right, that's all I got, guys. This was a short one. Have a good one.
Nah.